Bright and beautiful morning here at our studio in Lagos. Good morning and welcome to Ray's Breakfast. Hashtag what are you saying? We're thrilled as always to start the day with you, our valued viewers, and on this vibrant, youthful platform, we tackle the most important conversations that even concern the most important demography of the society, and that's the youth. So get ready for an awesome experience with us today. I would be your anchor. My name is Oluchi Omenka, and I've been joined again by my talented, gorgeous, incredible God's beauty, Israel.
I think it should be drum roll, like
drum rolls. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm blessed.
How are you? I love the energy. I'm good as well. I'm actually, so somebody told me something today that really made me feel happy. I see this person every day, and the person will be shocked that I'm saying this now because they can literally hear this. So the person said that, how long have you been doing this, like coming on air? I said, little over 7 months, I guess that range. And then she asked that, oh, that's really nice, that's impressive. I said, okay, thank you. But she mentioned something that really made me smile. She said, I see how you go about your work. You always do with so much energy and enthusiasm. You must really like your job. Now, coming from somebody, an external person saying this made me feel like, okay, I'm glad that my enthusiasm is rubbing off on people and it's clear and obvious. So it made me feel okay, even though I had a terrible experience getting to work here today. A lot of mannerless people I met. You know how I cringe at mannerless people. If you're mannerless, it's a turn off for me. I feel people should know certain etiquette, public etiquette. I always scream it every day. Public etiquette, it will make all of us happy.
What did this person do this time?
You don't want to know, my sister. The same things I always argue and complain about. Playing loud music in the bus. This is not even a loud music that is inspirational or religious. This is the one that has to do with, the Naira Marley kind of music. I'm like, I need to calm my head to know what I'm going to do on the show today. And I'm hearing I'm back, or I'm hearing are you there? I'm like, really? Very loud. So many mannerless behavior. But the other comments made me calm down. Okay, let's go about doing our job enthusiastically as we should. So what's the highlight of your week?
Okay, today is Thursday. It's not yet over.
But
it has been a fascinating one. You guys, I met someone yesterday that I never expected, but
I said
again, there's that remembrance of what, the Bible has always said. There's Luke 1:37 where it says, with God, nothing is impossible.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, so, that's just more confirmation, that God has given me. And honestly speaking, I see growth, I see elevation, I see progress, and
I love that. That's very inspiring and positive. A good way to start the day. But I hope we do not spoil this mood by the time we start reading the papers, because you wonder what is really happening.
Honestly, my mood is already spoiled, because if I tell you what is going on the Guardian...
Let's maintain the happiness that we have, then we'll go back to the Nigerian papers. So we'll take this short break and we'll take a moment to reflect on the significant event that has shaped our world. We're highlighting two fascinating milestones, which will be displayed shortly. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for sticking with us. Now, what are your thoughts on these historical milestones? I'd love to hear your insight. As always, today, shock me and tell me your insight on this perspective. We would love to hear them, and of course, you can send us a message on our phone lines on 07025007749 or 07014242420. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, head on now to an official Upgrade TV. Click the subscribe button, like, share the link, tune in to channel 145 on your Go TV, and do not miss this for anything. Let's take a look at what's making headlines today. We'll be scanning the pages of the Nigerian Tribune, the International Guardian, and of course, the Punch newspaper. Let's go international.
All right, straight into the international space, the Guardian newspaper. Top left corner, we have Drake and Goliath, one man's fight to save red phone box. Top center, that's the main sport headline, we have Lionesses triumph over world champion Spain. Main headline, stammer to press Trump on security guarantees in critical Ukraine talks. The left column below the main headline, we have two child benefits cap could be relaxed. Bottom center headline, we have president faces backlash over AI vision for Gaza. I don't know what's going on with your president. You see, you being a Trumparian, there's a lot of things.
Please, let's get that
okay,
straight.
Sorry.
I've never been to the United States at all, so how would you claim Donald Trump is my president?
Sorry now. But I mean, you know this, if you love someone, you somehow have to also, you know, exhibit.
Okay.
Exactly. That's why I'm coming for you. Because there are so many things that this man is doing, and I don't understand where it's coming from. But let me take the details. And it says Donald Trump shared an AI-generated video showing a futuristic vision for Gaza, which he and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are seen relaxing and drinking cocktails. Now, Gaza is currently experiencing a major humanitarian crisis with many people suffering due to war and conflict, which we already know, obviously, right? Now, the video makes it look like everything is fine, which is upsetting a lot of persons, right? Now, it seems insensitive to those affected by the crisis. It could spread misinformation by showing a reality that doesn't exist. Now, the last one says it raises concern about how AI can be used for political messaging and propaganda. Honestly speaking, I am a bit pissed about this story because, first off, we already know that, you know, we know Trump's policy or whatever that he's trying to do with the Gaza. The fact that he wants to dominate and, you know, want the Gaza to be under like the United States, which is something that the Palestinians have actually disagreed. They don't want it. So tell me why you are making a video that illustrates or that shows that you and their opposition, which is the Israel, that's the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where the two of you are relaxing and drinking, and when you already know the problems and that, you know, the Gaza, that's the Palestinians are actually suffering due to the conflict and all. So you are sending that kind of video, you're posting that kind of video, showing as if
looks insensitive.
Exactly, which is very insensitive. Because again, you know, the problems that these people are you know, are going through right now. Is either you allow them be, right? Since they don't even want your policy, they don't want you know, the advice that you're bringing forth, you stay on your own. Which one is you're making a video that you and their opposition is actually chilling and enjoying themselves? I actually find that to be very insensitive. And I want to ask, what's this thing with the Ukraine and the Russia having a conflict? He's supporting the Russians, that's Putin. Then when it comes to the Gaza and what's the name of this person, the Israelis, you are going for the Israels. Like, in my head, I'm like, and you know the interesting part, the United States have always been, you know, supporters of this person, because you know how this country is very small, they are just coming up, and having this war with them, you know that it's a lot for them to take, for the citizens of these countries to handle. Then instead of you to just, again, if you don't have anything to bring to the table, you stay where you are. Why are you doing this kind of things? I'm coming to you because now they always follow that man bomba to bomba. Why is this man doing these things?
That helped him with the video that made that's making you come for me. Well, you know, did he? I want to ask a question.
I think it's by this time you are supposed to resign from supporting this man.
And firstly, I never even told you like very clearly that I'm in support of him, right? I did not say I am in support of Donald Trump, so you cannot put things in my mouth.
Whether you're supporting him,
I've been quite neutral on it. Maybe
really?
agreeing with some of his policies
exactly.
and disagreeing with some. So
I don't think you've actually disagreed with him.
I have now. Like this one now.
Oh,
if it is actually true, like that's how
I don't understand. Why would a newspaper carry what is not true?
My dear, you know of objective biases, right? Let's not go through that route. But if that's how it's played out, and that's how it really is,
yes.
I think it's quite insensitive, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
You guys.
The Punch newspaper has some interesting stories on the election cases. APC accounts seized over 8.9 billion naira debt, says Ganduje. Party incurs legal fees, others from presidential, governorship and legislative election cases. Pro-Obasa clerk barred from assembly threatens contempt suit. Immigration arrests 378 illegal immigrants in Ogun State. U.S. aid donated drugs found in Lagos Abia market, says NAFDAC. Above that, we see Niger and others exit from ECOWAS, affecting counter-insurgency war. Concerns as forex reserves drop $2.3 billion amid naira gains. We also see 1.9 billion naira fraud. Ex-accountants general seeks out of court settlement. And the last story here is importers fret as Dangote lowers petrol price again. So there are two people that you always think I'm supporting. So anytime you see their story, you like to come from me. For example, when you see any Trump story, you come from me. When you see any Dangote story,
because
you come from me.
You've always said you are always in support of some policies that he has brought out. So
but, you know, this story that I want to highlight today is very important that I highlight it again because we had a discussion on it earlier this, I think it was on Monday, when we had a discussion with someone who worked with NAFDAC, this whole counterfeit drugs and everything.
Yes.
Now, the follow-up details on that is what's really more alarming because lives are now being threatened. And it leads us to the bigger question of where are we really going to in this country. So I want to find the full details that I saw here. Give me a moment. Okay, it says here that NAFDAC has been busy, right? Gotten 87 truckloads of fake drugs and everything. I want to give you the statements that the Director General of NAFDAC revealed during her interview. It said that the counterfeiters were after her life and those of her workers. That's her name, who briefed State House correspondent at the presidential villa in Abuja, said, I told you about the attempted murder about 6 months ago. One of our staff members in Kano had his child kidnapped because he was doing his job. Fortunately, the child escaped. And for her, she has had 2 policemen living in her house 24/7 in Abuja and Lagos. She literally doesn't have a life. Now, this is so scary. The fact that we have perpetrators of crime and evil who are now bold enough to go after their life. When we had this discussion on Monday, remember my concluding statement after the guest left was, it's okay to say, it's okay to just say, yeah, they are counterfeit drugs. But the one that we have not gotten an explanation to, which nobody is answering, is how USAID drugs got into these marketers or these counterfeiters' hands. How did it get there? Because we're supposed to have a supply chain that is rigid, that is monitored, that has protocols. I mean, following the rules and the regulation. So if we now see a breach, to seeing a large number, not just one, not just 2, a large number getting into the hands of people we should not get to. The question is, how did it get there in the first place? And nobody is answering that question. It's just being dismissed as, oh, counterfeiters, we're trying to fight it, NAFDAC is on there. Yes, they are. But in the first place, what broke that supply chain that made it get into their hands? USAID drugs, mentioned some other things, UNFPA, UNFPA, donated some retroviral drugs and condoms, and it got into these people's hands. So when we start answering that question of how, if we can now challenge how the future will be and provide solutions that will be long-lasting, else you can just shut down these shops, then they will hide for it. I mean, criminals know how to step down for a while and come back again. So the main thing that has to be sorted is that supply chain. What has happened that caused that supply chain to break, that these people have access to drugs that are supposed to be secluded?
The truth is, like, if you remember what I said when you brought this up, I said that, of course, like with this whole thing that's going on, you know that there's definitely it's an internal thing. That's the truth. Because you made mention of the supply chain. If everybody in the, in the organization is doing what they are supposed to do and nobody's trying to look, get extra money and all, it will go the way it will go, and everybody would. I mean,
strict monitoring.
Yes.
So you know
people
that if something goes wrong, you can easily point where it happened from.
Exactly. But in a situation where some persons in the organizations are already biased, what happens? Of course, these are the kind of things that would that would lead to.
And the fact that the officials are now facing life-threatening. Yes, it is very alarming.
Which is I feel like it's something that, let me not say it's normal, but it's something that you should expect.
This one is beyond normal, actually.
No, it is something that you should expect. Is there any time that, I mean, I was watching one of the news stations, and they're making mention of one of the women back then in the early 2000s that was also fighting for all of these things. I think one of the NAFTA officials and all, she was probably one of their leaders and all of that. And they're making mention of how people also used to threaten her, even down to they would call police to go and arrest her. And she literally started doing the fight because of how her sister died. Do you understand? So the truth is, this is not a new thing. This is something that would always happen. Once we have one person coming out to speak the truth, the rest of persons that knows that, oh, this person talking now would affect them, would always definitely want to, retaliate, which is what we are seeing now.
Nigerians generally would fret when the people that are supposed to be the security officers now have their own lives being threatened. It's almost like, what's not going to happen to me that I do not go around with this security man? Let me take you through the Tribune very quickly before we wrap up this segment. The major headline reads, Tinubu at APC, NEC ask Ganduje to reconcile aggrieved members. NEC passes vote of confidence in him. The other story says, Ogun government begins tolling on Ekpe, Mojodola, Ijebu-Ode Expressway. Court grants bail to Lagos Assembly workers arraigned over fracas with DSS. Immigration arrests 376 illegal immigrants in Ogun State. Repeating the story of the USAID UNFPA condoms, antiretroviral drugs found in sealed markets, says NAFDAC. Dangote petrol to sell for 860 naira in Lagos, 870 in Southwest. Mbeki to chair 2025 Obafemi Awolowo Memorial Webinar on March 6th. And that's all the story. I do not have so much time. I would have touched on this Dangote stuff again, but let's just let it slide. We'll hear another interesting one tomorrow. And this is where we come to the end of the headline reviews and the banter this morning. If anyone catches your interest, remember, you can always let us know on our YouTube platform. Call us and tell us your own view concerning this. We'll take this short break. And today, we want to actually review the hike in business subscription, DStv and Telecom. And of course, we're not doing this alone today. We have a seasoned guest who will join us for this discussion. So stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back and thank you for sticking with us. Today's topic is on reviewing the hike in business subscriptions, DStv and Telecom. Subscription services like DStv and Telecom data plans have become essential for businesses and individuals in Nigeria. But over the past few months, we've seen significant price hikes, putting pressure on consumers and businesses alike. And what's driving this increase? Is it inflation, policy changes, or the global economy? More importantly, are there practical solutions to ensure affordability without compromising service quality? And to break this down, we have with us today Amamchukwu Okafor, a seasoned strategic consultant with vast experience in macroeconomic research, sector analysis, and digital economy consulting across Africa. With a strong background in economics and policy thinking, he has led projects for organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, MasterCard Foundation, and Lagos State Government. Amamchukwu, it's great to have you here with us.
To be here.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I can shorten your name to Amam, but I like how it should be pronounced in full, Amamchukwu. Forgive me. All right, so going straight into the conversation.
I like that as well.
Yeah, I love that. So now let's go into this conversation very proper. Everybody would agree that they are facing some challenges or the other with the telecom hike. I mean, even recently, the fact that I have to change the plans I was using before from my network, and the fact that it doesn't even last anymore, it gets me so pissed and really upset. And I always have to use my internet to work. So now let's discuss this so that everybody gets an idea of what's really happening. From an economic standpoint, what are the key factors that are driving the rise in business subscription costs for services like DStv and Telecom? And are we looking at inflation, currency devaluation, or is there something deeper?
I mean, straight to the point. I think that's what it is. Price level, general price level, exchange rate volatility, as we've seen in the past 2 years. We know what exchange rate used to be around 2022, 2023. We know what it is now, about 1,500. Inflation, about the same thing as well. When we have these two critical macroeconomic indicators shooting up or looking upwards, it makes sense. I mean, it's common sense that businesses would revise their menu, their cost of services, or it makes sense for companies to adjust their prices to stay afloat. So I think fundamentally this is what has changed, or what is influencing the revision in costs, as we have seen across these service providers, DStv, telecoms, I mean even Netflix as well. We've seen several revision on that end. I'm a subscriber. We've seen this revision, and I mean, Telecom is a very painful revision to accommodate, because some of these other ones like DStv and Netflix, you might decide to deselect, which is to cancel your subscription. But we are in a digital world these days. 1 minute out of the internet, 1 minute without internet, you feel lost already. So this is why, all that passion, all that sentiment is attached to the recent adjustment in telecom prices. Yeah.
This is a lot, honestly speaking, Amamchukwu, because the truth is there's so many SME, that small businesses that actually depend on each of these things to strive. Do you understand? Now imagine the local market now, someone that is selling airtime for 100 naira. With this increase, I mean, normally you always hear them say, oh, na 2 naira, na 3 naira, now with the aim. Now with these ones now, it just shows that they'll probably have extra money to whatever they actually sell their airtime for. I'm just giving, an example. So now, I mean, speaking to SMEs, because, I mean, we literally have a lot of them listening to us now. What are those strategies that you think they can, adopt in order for them to keep their business afloat?
I think that's a tricky one for businesses using the internet a lot. Right. I think the common thing to do, or the smart thing to do, is to be flexible regarding options. You have to compromise between cost and service, which is that you have to look at a service that gives you quality service at decent price. you have to also look at the options that these service providers give. I think most of the time they have options for businesses, for small businesses. But I think sometimes people just get stuck on the general or common ones. Bulk purchase might also be another option, which is to buy internet, for instance, in bundle. It might make sense that way than buying in tiny units, 1 gig, 2 gigs, weekly and daily. So I think it's about um, being smart with numbers, being smart with money as well. In inflationary time, economists will advise you to buy today and save later, because the value of your savings is fast eroding. So you want to really, and you go to the market today, the price of goods yesterday is not the same as it was yesterday. So um, when we are dealing with high inflation, double digit as we have it today, smart economic decision is that you make smart financial decision. Buy what you have to buy today, and don't dwell too much on savings. If you must save in investments that helps you hedge, inflation risks, for instance. Yeah, so I think this is what I would do if I were a small business. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Now let's look at a bit of comparison between global and local trends. We want to ask, are these price hikes in line with global trend, or is it just Nigeria experiencing a disproportionate increase compared to other markets?
I think that's a very tricky question. I really don't know what I want to go into that aspect. But so it's not. I would not say that it's a global issue. I think it's Nigeria, or it's Nigeria where we've seen um, these high level exchange rate volatility over the past 2 years. And but then again, if you begin to compare with what we have, Nigeria and the rest of the world outside of Nigeria, you still find that cost of internet and calls is in fact relatively cheap in Nigeria. If you look at the numbers, what we have currently, at revised rate, which is after the 50% increase in tariff, we have a situation where you can do the numbers. Internet, I think calls is still about 1 cent. I'm using foreign exchange uh, conversion to compare. So we have about 1 cent for calls, and about, I think, 30 cent, no, 3 cents or so, 30 cents for internet. This is very competitive in my opinion. So 1 cent per minute, for calls, and then 30 cents per gig, which is 1 gig for internet. If you compare to the rest of the world, I think that not a lot of countries rather, have call rates at less than 30 cents per gig. You have that in places like India, in Israel, France, Italy, and some of these places. But in US, in China, in Ghana, Togo, some of these other African countries, these services are quite expensive. Then again, if you look at the numbers from where we're coming from, the last time a revision was made was in 2013, after the last cost study by NCC, Nigerian Communication Commission. The last time a revision was made was in 2013, so about 12 or so years ago. If you look at that number, if you try to compare where we're coming from and do a little bit of cost comparison, you find that there's actually not been, in terms of dollars, there's actually not been such hike in price. So that hike in price is perceived, which is in Naira terms. So if you look at in terms of dollars, you're going to realize that these services, telecoms, for instance, they're only trying to at least recover costs. They're trying to stay afloat. If you look at it in 2023 and 2024, these guys made serious losses. And as a business, they have to be sustainable. For a business like MTN, it comes back at us, as an economy. I give you simple or two examples. MTN pays a lot, in terms of taxes. One of the highest taxpayer, in Nigeria today. If they make losses, they're not going to be paying any taxes. MTN has MTN Foundation. I think a percentage of that, of the foundation, comes from, and a percentage of the profit, MTN's annual profit, goes to MTN Foundation for CSR and all that, community development. So when they make losses, or when they make a loss, or when they make loss any year, then it puts all that services to the society at some risks. These are some of the things that we need to put in perspective when we enter this conversation around, rate revisions and tariff changes by, these utility providers like DStv, Telecoms, and the others. Again, I'm not even talking about the unemployment or the employment side of things. So these are things that we want to bring into perspective to balance the argument.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to just still continue on the whole comparison thing. I know you mentioned that in some other countries, their rates are not even as ours. But I think I did some research, and in South Africa and Kenya, these price increases are actually gradual. And that's what many Nigerians have, some bit of contention on, how that's a 50% increase, I think,
yes,
just hit us like that, considering the present economic situation. We're in dire need of help, and then a 50% increase just came at us like that. I know that there's still the question of government intervention and, different things that can come in play, but we're talking about how gradual it could have been. Do you want to touch on that a little?
Yes. There's a whole lot to put in perspective. As I mentioned, the last revision was done in 2013, 12 years ago. As it is, we use what we call a price cap plan or price cap regulation, which is that the SEC sets a price limit for these operators over a period of time, which should be, give or take, 3 to 5 years, just to make sure that these tariffs are cost reflective. But we've seen what has happened over the last 2 years. Now, I'm not even bringing into consideration the last 10 years. Take a look at what has happened in the last 2 years alone. It's a lot. Prices have doubled, and these are businesses that are posted significant losses. If you listen to the interview with Carl Toriola, the MTN CEO, there's a whole lot of points that he made about staying afloat as a business. The argument about being gradual, when you look at where they're coming from, you'd see that it's not about giving them or granting 20% increase and they having to record another loss and struggling as a business. Over the last 2 years, look at what has happened to quality of internet services or calls. It's been very bad. The argument is no money, no investment. So if you make a 20%, 30% increase for another 1 year, just to increase again, you're going to have it's not going to be, it might not have, let me not speak as though I work with these guys, but I'm trying to be reasonable, looking at where they're coming from, or looking at the facts on ground. Again, I was going to make a point of, if you look at where they're coming from, it's been 12 years since the last revision. We've seen, prices in terms of, we've seen exchange rates more than double. We've seen inflation. Inflation is currently, 24% or 34%, depending on what you're referencing. For a business or look at other services around in other sectors. I'm not even mentioning cost of diesel. So this has also, I mean, businesses are struggling. So these guys also they operate within the Nigerian context, and they also depend on. They also have foreign exchange obligations as well. So if businesses that supply services to MTN, for instance, have that liberty to adjust their menu or to adjust their cost, I think it would be unfair to have allied businesses raising costs and you're just there sitting and suffering and starving because you have a regulator. Recall again that they were even asking for 100% increase. But after a year or two, if not even more, the NCC did their own study and thought that it was smart to cut that in half, to grant a 50% increase. So I think I'm not trying to be passionate or to take the side of these corporate guys, but I think that um, if you look at where they're coming from and the environment in which they operate, it's almost like it's a difficult situation for for everybody, for the NCC to pinch them out like that, for consumers as well to adjust to that, in quote now, sharp increase in price. And, for the telecom guys, I think I see MTN, I see these other guys, they've been doing a lot of SpectraNet and the likes, they've been doing a lot of, PR, trying to manage in quote now, the protest by consumers about this jump in price. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. We will have to take this short break, and when we return, we'd love to also look at consumer spending patterns as a result of this, increase that we're seeing. So please stay with us, Amamchukwu, and our audience. We'll be right back shortly.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for sticking with us. We're still reviewing the increase in telecom prices, and we've been joined by an expert guest, Amamchukwu Okafor, to help us expand this. And he's giving a very objective, review to this without taking sides and just looking at it holistically. Of course, we have God's Beauty here with her question for Amamchukwu. Let's have it.
I'm tired of those guys. All right, but quick one. Amamchukwu, thank you so much, for the insight and your objective answers. So I want to ask this, right? Let's talk about solutions. Because the truth is, I hear you when you say that diesel is part of it, the economic hardship is part of it. So what do you think should be done? Because the truth is, consumer spending patterns will actually change. Yes, because, okay, let me give you a private example. I mean, I know that year where we used to, I mean, you know, subscribe our GoTV, our DStv, and all of that. And once it just increased like this, my father said if he says he cannot pay for it, he cannot pay for it. We'll use our 200 naira or 300 naira to go and get cassettes. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So we'd find an alternative. And I feel like that's something that we know how to do here in Nigeria. Once something is not working, we look for what's working. So I don't know how they intend now to benefit, because if you increase the tariff and all, and you say, oh, because of your losses, how do you think that you still get those things, you get your losses back? Because I know for sure that, like I said, the Nigeria that we are in right now, we know how we work. Once something is not working, we look for an alternative. So I want to talk about solutions now. What do you think should the telecom individuals should do? What do you think we as Nigerians, you know, given the economy status and all of that, what do you think we should do differently in order for us to get to a balance?
I think that at the end of the day, economic agents would act, would make rational decisions. Economic agents, I mean, household, which is you and me, businesses and government would act, in rational ways. And we're already seeing that playing out. As you mentioned, I mean, when we have price increase like this, what do you do as an individual with constrained income? You switch quickly to competitive, smarter options. If you can't switch, if it's an elastic product or goods, what or service, what do? You begin. There's what we call rationing. You begin to ration. That's what you just mentioned.
Exactly.
You start to ration how you use this service. In terms of internet, what you do is that when you go to bed at night, you switch your data, turn off your data.
Yeah.
You don't spend long hours on social calls. You have to be smart when you make calls these days. If you are a DStv subscriber, what you do is, go get the least service or bundle that gives you what you really want. If you don't care too much about football, cut that out. If you care about news, take the subscription that gives you the news channel that that appeals to you. If you're traveling out of time for a long period of time, don't do a DStv subscription. So the implication, however, of this rationing is, it's arguable. You would need some numbers to actually look at the effect or impact on these businesses. But in economics, what we call rationing constraint or something like that, which is that when you ration household in the labor market, household will ration businesses in the goods and services market. For instance, which is when a household begins to ration the consumption of these services, if on aggregate, let's blow it up. Let's say it somehow affects the bottom line of these businesses. What you're going to see is that they will begin to cut down on employment. I think we've seen some of those guys. I think sometime, I don't know what was it, Netflix, they say were leaving Nigeria or they were stopping something around Nigeria or something like that. So you're going to begin to see businesses react like that. They will begin to either shut down or leave the country or reduce labor. And when that happens, what you're going to see again in the labor market is that household will react by cutting more because you don't have work, you don't have income, and they say the unemployed, before he makes a decision, remembers that he's unemployed. So these are some of the things that you would see happen. Rationing in the goods and services market would somehow impact labor businesses who would in turn react by rationing. So this sort of in economics we call it belief updating, which is when you have a situation or new information, you react accordingly. You react according to the new information. So we're going to have this sort of feedback loop, which is not necessarily good unless we have some type of outside intervention. Intervention now would be, what role can government play? As it is now, we are an economy that is tending towards market, which is market economy. So the Tinubu administration is trying to hands off of, do do this kind of intervention, like subsidies, like, we are also seeing these sort of rate hikes, a electricity utility as well. So we're seeing these sort of hands off from government. So it's a critical one. So what we expect, or what we would hope that in the medium to, I would say in the short to medium run, because I don't want to say long run, because in the long run, King said that in the long run we're all dead. So we want to look at short to medium term perspective. We hope that we begin to see some type of recovery that gives businesses that advantage to operate at profitable levels without having to increase rates, so that we might begin to consider some type of revision as we begin to see in the PMS market, where we've seen some downward revision from, I think, about 950 to, I think there's a recent one now to about 820 or so. So this is the kind of conversation. This is what we would expect, that the advantages of market economy quickly begins to trickle down. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your opinions so far. But if we're having conversations like this, the consumers, as much as they like to hear the theoretical thing and what really is happening, they still feel like, I need a solution to what is happening. All this theory you have said, how can this price reduce? So I'm wondering, do you think there could have been alternative ways for telecom and media providers to actually manage this rising cost without directly transferring the burden to consumers? You've mentioned that government intervention might not have been like the very easy, solution. So do you think innovation or infrastructure sharing can actually play a role? Like other options, I want us to see other options that could have been explored rather than directly using the consumers as a means to reduce this burden. Because we cannot deny, we're not trying to deny that, these telecoms are, having things all figured out. They have their problems as well. And of course, it needs to be solved. But it feels like the consumers, the Nigerian, the average Nigerians are the one carrying this burden. So what other alternatives do you think that this telecom and media providers, let's take away the government for now, could have done to reduce the burden for consumers?
To be honest, I think it's a sad reality that when we have things like this, it's the average Nigerian. I mean, in this case, the middle class that gets to suffer a lot for these sort of sharp revisions. I can argue that those in the bottom line or in the bottom of the pyramid might deselect. They might decide not to do a DStv subscription. They might decide to stick to free to air. They might also, cut off from, internet. I mean, it has significant implication for, internet penetration, financial inclusion, and all that argument. But it's a sad reality. We can talk about cost reduction or innovation around cost reduction if, say, we're talking about temporary exchange rate volatility, or we have a slight jump in exchange. We're talking about, 3 times that. Some time ago, it used to be 450, 500. Now it's 1,500, which is like 3 times what it used to be. How do businesses, again, the current model, which is price cap regulation, allows for these businesses to be innovative. It favors them to be innovative because it means that within a certain period they can't go above certain caps. So it's smart for these businesses to look internally to charge the ceiling. So they will charge the price ceiling and try internally to work out their costs. But that has been impossible. Or whatever it is that you're looking at, exchange rate, foreign exchange devaluation has made it almost impossible. They are operating at a loss. We've seen their books. So these are public companies. So we've seen their books. We've seen that they are struggling as well. The businesses, these firms already do shared infrastructure. They are infrastructure providers servicing these companies already.
All right.
Some of these costs are in dollars.
Okay. All right.
So it makes it really difficult. It's a difficult situation, even for the businesses, as well as it is for individuals, household, and for NCC, the regulators as well.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. I'm hoping that people listening to this can just have their mind at rest, and because it's looking like this is going to be for a very long term. Now, as we begin to wrap up the show, I want us to have like really conclusive words. So looking ahead, do you see subscription prices stabilizing, or should businesses and consumers brace for continuous hikes? What proactive measures can be taken at both individual and policy levels to mitigate this impact? So there's the fear that, yes, there's a 50% increase now, and with the way things usually go up and down in our country, there could be continuous hikes. So let's agree that we won't even accept this price increase that has happened. Do you think that there could be price stabilizing, or should businesses and consumers start getting ready for more continuous hikes?
Credit to the current administration. We've seen some moderation in exchange rates. It's been hovering around 1,005. So there's been no sudden jump as we used to have it from 1,005 to like 1,800 overnight, or we've seen some moderation at plus or minus 1,500 to a dollar. We've also seen with Dangote coming on stream, we've seen some reduction in the price of PMS. These are critical costs that cascade into other cost of goods and services. So if we see a moderation in these critical cost functions, we might expect a moderation in terms of general price. So we might not have a situation where, unless there is some type of shock, external shock, that would, trigger these critical costs to jump again. But if what we're saying continues, we might see some stabilization, in which case we might not see those sharp increases as we've seen. Again, it took a lot of time for the NCC to complete their studies and revision to come to 50%. I think since that announcement, we've seen, if you go by stock market valuation, we've seen some record. We've seen a jump in MTN's stock price. I think that market is already reacting to that. Hopefully, these businesses would, within this band, would find ways to, accommodate, find ways to be innovative, would negotiate some, exchange rates or some foreign exchange, would enter into some foreign exchange contract, or, some time ago, MTN floated commercial papers of, I don't know how many billion or trillion now. We've seen these businesses trying to, innovate, seek outside funding to invest or reinvest in the sector, just to improve quality of service and, at the current rate that we have. Hopefully, as I've argued, with the moderation in costs, diesel costs, I don't expect to see, to see surprise increases. Yes, let me use that word, to get surprise increases in these costs. Yeah, in the medium to long term. Short to medium term, let me not say long term. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Amamchukwu Okafor. Very insightful conversation. And we're still hopeful. We're going to have our fingers crossed, hoping that things get better in our nation. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you, God's Beauty, for joining us. I'll see you again, God's Beauty, tomorrow. We'll stuck together. All right. Thank you to our audiences for joining our conversation as well. Do ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, so you never get to miss all the teas that we have for you. Interact with us further, and we'll sure respond to all of them. See you tomorrow for our tech and finance segment. Bye.
Hello, you. Yes, you. This is Usayome Sale from Ways Primetime. Now, we appreciate your continued support for watching our content, following us across all our social media. But we've noticed, for those of you watching us on YouTube, 88.5% of you who watch our content aren't subscribed to our channel. Why? Now, if you are enjoying our content, you enjoy our shows, and you want to stay updated on all things Ways, it's time to hit that subscribe button below. Now, subscribing isn't just for you. It's for the growth of our channel. It helps us get bigger and better. With your support, we can continue to bring even more intriguing and exciting content. How about you subscribing right now and being a part of our community?